Hi, um, I am a targeted individual. I am making this video because I hope that my gang stalkers will see it and that they will possibly keep it low with what they're doing to me, because right now it's very, very intimidating. It's every day. It's every time I go outside. It's like I don't know how they know where I am at all times, but I can never escape them when I'm out in public. I can never be alone. Even if I walk out to a beach, and I walk several miles just to get to, a spot where I know nobody will come. I can sit there for maybe 5, 10 minutes, and then suddenly, out of the blue, people will sit behind me and have conversations about personal matters in my life that, they couldn't possibly have known unless they are surveilling me or reading my mind. I don't know how they gather information about me, but I know that many strangers know things about me that they couldn't possibly know if they weren't, reading my mind or tapping my Wi-Fi connections or whatever they're doing. The things that are being done to me are, for example, gaslighting, strangers having conversations right beside me about very, very personal subjects. And it happens so many times now that it's not a coincidence. And the thing they like to do when they gaslight is to install doubts in me and make me fear something, Everybody, make mistakes, and I made mine, and it's like they constantly point out my mistakes by having these very subliminal conversations, right beside me. But also they're always making me notice that it's me they're talking about, For example, they say my name really loud, and look at me, stare at me, um, and then pretend to be talking about somebody else, and when it happens like 4 or 5 times a day with strangers, that's not a coincidence. Another thing they do is really, it's something that you cannot go and blame a stranger for. It's very natural things, but it's like it happens every day so many times that I am completely 100% sure that they're doing it on purpose to piss me off. And one of the tactics is that they cough whenever I walk beside them, or they whistle at me, or they hum, a little melody. And the coughing and whistling thing, they're doing it a lot. And oftentimes they're like replicating what I'm doing. For example, if I'm sitting in public and I'm scratching my nose like this, the perpetrators, they will scratch their nose too, and start whistling or stuff. And generally just, trying to steal my focus, always making me aware that I'm being stalked. You see, I don't know why exactly they are doing this, and I cannot point out everyone who is doing this, but I think it has something to do with either the family I came from or the subjects I have been investigating my time in, I have been seeking a lot of information about alternative matters like cannabis cures cancer and the 9/11 conspiracies and all kinds of conspiracies, and I have been digging down that for 4 years. And I was, I was demonstrating at one point for a sub-organization to Anonymous called Operation Death Eaters. It's a very harsh name, but what they're doing is trying to expose and bring awareness to the subject that there are many people being trafficked all around the world every day. And me and a friend I had, we signed up for this event that Anonymous was having, through this sub-organization. And we went to a big city in Denmark, Aarhus, where we demonstrated. We made, huge banners, and we made a website in Danish and printed out barcodes so people could scan with their smartphones, and gather information from this site. And after that day, after we went to that event, suddenly I was gang stalked. Gang stalked. It sounds like, niggers. No, I'm sorry for that. It sounds like, gangs driving in a car, doing drive-bys or something. So I don't like the term gang stalking. I would rather refer to it as organized harassment. Because after that event, they started coming, many strangers started coming to me at the street when I was walking in public and just having rude conversations with me, accusing me for, silly things. And that in the beginning, I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I continued asking myself, am I insane? Am I going crazy here? What is going on? And the gang stalking and or the organized harassment and all the other things, staring at me when I walk down the street, or silly things like sticking their tongue out, like, just like that, I've never seen so many people do it to me before, but suddenly, every time I went outside, people were doing that. Or cars making, constantly U-turns in front of me, and always the same color car, white cars with the number plate starting with an A. And it happens like so many times every time I went outside, and they were honking their horns also, so I couldn't possibly, look the other way. It was impossible for me to not notice that I was being stalked. So after a couple of months asking myself and my the closest people I had around me, one of them really saw what was going on, and was like confirming that I was not going insane. This is really happening. And after a couple of months, I was just so exhausted from it. I needed to find out what the fuck is going on. So I went in and typed on Google, like, strangers stalking me, many people following me, just, just random terms. And eventually I got to this targeted individual phenomenon. And I was shocked. Oh my God, because there was so freaking many similarities to what was going on in my life. It was like reading my own testimonies. And I was scared. Let me tell you that. I was almost scared to death. But at the same time, I felt secure because I was like, okay, at least I'm not going that crazy. It is really happening. After I found out, obviously the gang stalking, it didn't stop, but it broke a lot of my relationship with many people I had, because I couldn't keep up with them, and some of them were not very nice to me. Some of them looking back now, some of the closest I had, I know that they were perpetrators. Uh, and at one point, it, it it broke me down so much that I had to leave an apartment I had. I will not expose anybody here, but one I was living with didn't pay his rent, and I had to move because I couldn't afford to live there myself, and the rent wasn't paid, so I had to move to a shelter home, like a home for homeless people, right? And I went there, and they were in at the first weeks living there, everything went fine, but then new people moved in, and the stalking began again. Because when I moved into this homeless facility, all the attacks, it became very silent. I at one point I thought they stopped doing it, but then after a couple of weeks, the attacks, they started again, and I was like so disappointed because I really hoped it stopped. And new people moved into this shelter home, and funny thing is, this shelter home, I didn't live in the main facility. They put me in like this little house with 5, 6 bedrooms, and in the beginning I got along with everybody in that house, but like after those couple of weeks, everybody in that house, they suddenly just got kicked out or moved to the main facility or something, and the new people coming in, they were all gang stalkers. It was like when I woke up in the morning, every time I made a sound, they would start coughing or whistling. And I tested this, by waking up, staying really, really silent for 15 minutes or something. And then when I got up, very silent, nobody could hear me. and put like a coffee cup on the table. Then, boom, the whistling started. And I began, I tried to keep this a very, silent matter. I didn't want to tell anybody like what I was experiencing, after I got that isolated, because I didn't want anybody to see me that crazy, I know how unbelievable, it sounds. So I kept my cards to myself in the beginning, but then when the harassment was so severe that I started crying every day and was so scared, I started talking to the staff about it. And I mentioned that my family is involved in Freemasonry, right? And one day I was working, because we have to work in that facility, and I worked in the kitchen. We were 2 people in that facility working in the kitchen, right? And I worked there, and this old lady, she came sometimes to work. She was like, I don't know the name in English, but she sometimes just comes there to work to have something. She retired a long time ago. So, and one day, I was having some dishwash. I went to another room in the kitchen, to put it into place. And this old lady, she was having another conversation with her co-worker. And when I went out there, they were both staring at me, like really, really intensely staring at me. And the old lady said, "It's the Freemason who is behind it all." And I just stopped right there. I was so, whoa, boom, where did that came from, right? But not that shocked, because I was used to getting subliminal messages. So I just continued doing my everyday, even though I was bullied and harassed out in the kitchen. Like, it was, for example, with the old lady and Freemasonry, they just continued their conversation after that, pretending like nothing. And I just stood there. But then I just continued my everyday, working. One of the tactics they did in the kitchen was, there was a window where I was doing the dishwash, and I was the only one standing there, and everybody else working in the kitchen, they were not close to this window, and they couldn't feel if I had that window open, and it was summertime, it was very hot. I was standing right next to a big, huge industrial washing machine, and it got hot in there, let me just tell you that. So I opened the window, but every time I would walk out of my little spot, that area from that window, they would rush in and close it. And I caught them several times, and I asked them, okay, could you maybe please not close the window, but they just didn't care. And many of the hours I worked, I got not even paid for, but that doesn't have to do anything with the target, The same day that this old lady talked about the Freemasonry, my window got broken in my room. And it was at a spot where I usually sit in my couch, I used to sit there, and I was so happy that it didn't hit me, and it scared me so much that, I started to keep silent about the things that I knew again. But at the same time, I was so scared, and I think I forgot to mention that another thing they do is like street theater, but maybe that's the same as gaslighting. They're like making this scene up, replicating my every movement, like I said. And the street theater and gaslighting and subliminal messaging, like when I walked by a staff member and another person, they looked at me and they said, "Oh, we don't like sugar sweet things." Like really mean, and getting that constantly, day out, day in, it was just too hard. So I looked for another homeless facility to live in, and I moved in there. And in the beginning, everything was fine, but then, suddenly my hair began to fall out my head. And I thought at that point I was getting, ill, physically ill. I went to my doctor. What my doctor said was that, "Louisa, are you sure that you're not doing it yourself?" And I was just in shock. Why the fuck would I pull my own hair out? But she was just not to be convinced that I didn't do it myself. So I left out of that doctor's office, and I haven't seen the doctor since, because no way. I I'm still shocked to this day, you know, but knowing that I am a targeted individual, I'm not that shocked after all. So eventually I figured out that it was my balsam and, you know, or my conditioner, my shampoo that somebody put inside it, because it started to smell very chemical and very strange. And I noticed the smell when I was in the shower, but it has been standing in a window where the sun was coming in on it, and I thought it was the plastic, you know, giving out some smell from the sun baking on it. And, you know, but I took some good smells at it and, you know, realized that it was because somebody put chemicals in it. And to, you know, to prove that I lost it, you know, this is a wig, so I will quickly show it like this. See? This what they done to me. It's like it's some months ago, so my hair, luckily, you know, it's starting to come out again. I still have some bald spot, but that's just how it is. I cannot do anything about it. When I tried to call the police on my broken window, they wouldn't do anything. They said it was vandalism and not a threat. When I tried to, you know, report this with my hair, they wouldn't do anything about it. They say, oh, we cannot do anything. So, yeah. It's been a while since they were really, you know, hitting me hard, like making me lose my hair or breaking a window, you know. But getting these waves, these attacks every day, you know, just people whistling at you constantly all the time, you know, and coughing and just doing all these attacks. It's torture. You know, it's like some of the best ways maybe for me to describe is that if you take, like, if you get a paper cut, one paper cut, it doesn't hurt at all, you know. But when you get 1,000 paper cuts, it starts to hurt, right? And for us targeted individuals, you know, we get thousands of paper cut every day, almost like. And I don't know why yet I am a target. Was it because of the activism I was doing? Was it because of my whistleblowing of all the all the human trafficking? Or is it because my family is working where they are? Because I have read a lot of articles about why people are getting targeted, and you know, everything is mentioned under the sun, you know. So it's hard to get a straight answer, like, why are they doing this to us? I went from believing I was a chosen one to that I was a human experiment to that, you know, this was reptilians, you know, stalking you. And, you know, I just simply don't know what the fuck to believe. I just know what is happening, but not the reason. And one of the reasons I believe my family is involved in this is because they are involved in Freemasonry. They work at United Nations. They work in CERN, CERN. They work in the taxpayer's office. They work in the medical industry and in the military. And that's why, you know, from reading these articles and knowing what they can do with electronic harassment, you know, and surveillance and that kind of, you know, I can put some dots together by looking at some of my family members and also those who are not doing that well. There are many people in my family who is doing very well. And then there are the other side, you know, who is not doing that well. And, you know, they're kind of, I believe some of them are targets, but I don't think they would ever believe it, you know, because it's so, it's only when you know something that you're not supposed to know about that you really get this target. Or if your credibility is so low that nobody would possibly believe you, then they can target you as well. So this video was, you know, it was actually just meant to be maybe, you know, exposing, you know, giving my share of my targeted individual experience to possibly, you know, they would stop doing it. Because I can say one thing for sure, from now on I'm going to record every time I'm going out and I'm in danger of meeting these gang stalkers. I will start filming those bastards. And hopefully they will lay low with what they're doing to me, so I can breathe maybe when I'm outside, right? And it's also, you know, a testimony, because to just make the odds of this getting exposed bigger, because the more people we are getting this story, our story out there, you know, the more, you know, people will maybe start believing us. So if you're sitting out there as a targeted individual, you know, please don't hesitate to get your story out. It has taken me 1.5 years now to get the courage, the balls to do this. It's very strange for me to sit here and make this video and talk about this, and knowing I'm going to put it out there, it scares me a lot, you know. But at this point, what do I have to lose? I lost all my family, you know, I lost my friends, I lost my credibility, you know. I'm never gonna have a proper job, you know, because I can't stand the bullying, so I will always quit it, you know, maybe, you know. So please, if you are a target, you know, and you're hesitating to put your story out there, you know, if you have nothing to lose, then do it. Do it for yourself and do it for the other targets, you know, because we share maybe a responsibility to help each other, you know. And I cannot give answers to anybody why they are targets, but I have some good advice on how to desensitize yourself. I'm not there yet where I can completely block it out, but I have some good methods, you know, some tools that I use to make my mind not think about it all the time. And if you are a target and you're way ahead of me, because many of you really are, I'm so proud that many of you have, you know, done this before me, you know, giving advice on how to survive, because even though we have to expose this, it's very important that we also learn how to cope with this and how to survive. I would say the most important thing about all of this phenomenon right now is that we care for ourselves and about each other to really be able to get through this, you know. So if you're a target, if you feel lonely out there, you know, when you need somebody to talk to, I will put my email down below, and I will maybe create a Skype or something, you know. So if you need somebody to talk to or need advice, if you're new to this, you know, and you can always email me, and we can maybe help each other or something, you know. So, okay, I've been rambling now for 22 minutes, so I think I will call it a day with this video, and hopefully more targets will put their stories out there, and hopefully the motherfucking perpetrators, they will keep it a little low, because I cannot. Okay, I will not say that, because that could be used against me. You know, targets, you know, sometimes you want to do really bad stuff to these perpetrators. They piss you off so much that, you know, you would go to jail just to get some revenge. But please don't do that. Don't react. Act instead. Because reactions is exactly what they want. They want you to be in that low frequency, you know, energy, negative state of mind. They really want you there. So the best revenge you can get is to just smile and just whatever, you know. Okay, you're an evil person, right? I'm a good person. I know who I am. Okay, I know it's easier said than done. I react as well, but for yourself, you know, please see if you can try not being so harsh, because it will hit you in the end. Okay, that was enough for now. Thank you for listening and seeing this, you know, if you are. Have a really nice day, and if you're a perpetrator, take a good look in the mirror and ask yourself, is it worth destroying another person's life for the purpose you're doing it for? Right. Okay, you will see more from me. Good. Bye.